All my Sony shooters out there, this one is for y'all. So I have been basically since I started doing professional work, I have been into the Sony ecosystem. Started off with a Sony A6400 and then kind of worked my way up to the FX30 once that released. Shot with that for a while, it did its job, but this past year I finally decided to make the jump into full frame, which was with this, the FX3. Now, I think it's a secret to nobody that the FX3 is definitely still a great camera, right? Like its image quality is still superb. It still pretty much does everything you need it to do. But like this video is titled, is it worth it in 2025 still? Because this thing is not cheap, and we all know that. So here's basically my honest, real, raw opinions on it. First things first, there are some competitors out there when it comes to like a Sony full frame sensor now, right? So we don't just have the FX3 and the A7S3. Now we have things like the the ZV-E1. And that's interesting too because the price point comes in quite a bit lower than this. What are our differences from the ZV-1 and the FX3? Obviously, there's a lot, but for me, the biggest thing, like the two biggest things, I guess you could say, is dual card slots and internal fan. Might not be that big of a deal to everybody, but once again, I'm using these cameras for professional video work, so that's like I can't have a blimp, right? I cannot have a camera overheat, first and foremost. I have dealt with Sony cameras in the past. Anybody who shot Sony for years knows that they used to overheat. I'm not doing that again. I'm not dealing with that again. And I live in Arizona. Are you crazy? There's no shot there's no chance. Like I said, I initially was using the FX30 before I switched over to the FX3. And again, just knowing that my camera was never gonna overheat, that was peace of mind that I'm just not willing to give up again. So there's that. And then the dual card slots. That again is something that is just like it's a must have. It's a must have. Once again, after coming from the FX30, even though if I switch to a ZV-1, it would be like, oh, that's an upgrade, right? You're upgrading the sensor. You're going from APS-C to full frame. To me, that feels like a downgrade, really, because I'm losing the internal fan and I'm losing the dual card slots. So again, that is a no-brainer. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard also the horror stories about people whose SD cards have corrupted and they lost like an entire wedding or an event they got paid thousands of dollars to shoot. That is like, once again, it just can't happen. Just cannot happen. So those are the things with this camera that really, to me, still kind of make it worth it. It's just that perfect sweet spot, I feel, to where you don't have to jump all the way up to like an FX6. You know, that's a whole different form factor. Yeah, you lose a couple things that you get in here, even though you gain a lot with an FX6. Whole extra like stop of dynamic range and the whole nine. But it's I think the FX3 really still kind of sits at that good sweet spot, basically. That's where I'm getting with this. Now, are there some cases in which I would recommend getting the ZV-1 over the FX3? Absolutely. If you're not doing professional work and you just want a full frame camera just to do kind of one-off projects or passion projects or YouTube content, 10 out of 10, definitely recommend getting the ZV-1. 100%. I would not waste like $4,000 on this. There's no shot. There's no shot. I feel like this definitely just turned into an FX3 versus ZV-1 video kind of, but it's okay. I might add that to the title too, but basically we're still talking about whether this is worth it or not. So as we can see on B&H, it's still going for basically $4,000. That's a lot of money compared to the $2,200 of the ZV-E1. If we move on to Amazon, just because we know that the FX3 has been out for a while. Hold on, I'm on the wrong page. Yeah, you see we can get it for as low as like $3,400. But if you're going on Facebook Marketplace and looking in Facebook groups, you can probably find it closer to like $3,100, $3,200 from some people. That's what I was looking at. But me personally, I just didn't trust anybody enough to try to buy something, especially out here. On the contrary, I mean, you could look for the ZV-1 as well, which, hold on. Confusion. Boom. Okay, yeah. I mean, look, that's $1,800 for a full frame camera, which I mean that's literally $1,800 is like what you can get the FX30 for. So that's a pretty crazy deal. All in all, though, like I definitely just if you're doing professional work, if you're getting paid to use your camera, for sure the FX3 is still worth it in 2023. 2023. What? 2023? What am I talking about? 2025. Without a doubt, it's it's kind of weird to me just because like I felt like it wasn't going to be that much different than the FX30, and in some ways it's not, but it's just one of those things where it's like once you use this a couple times, like you really kind of don't want to touch a crop sensor camera again. Not to hate on the FX30 because that thing is still an absolute beast, but that's a whole nother conversation in video itself. So if you would like to see the FX3 versus FX30 shootout battle, click this video right here. Definitely make sure you subscribe for more real, raw, uncut tech talk. And yeah, that's all I got for y'all. See ya. FX3.